It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve, and we are here to talk about the women's NCAA tournament and how that ended up. It was a really good game, going back and forth. So we just kind of want to give our reactions and how we felt about it. And, I'd like to say congratulations to the South Carolina team. That team, undefeated.
Yeah.
Right? The only game that they've lost in 2 years was to Iowa last year in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, just an incredible team and young. I think they had 3 or 4 freshmen coming off the bench and contributed.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson was really, really awesome.
Yeah. So I can tell you right now that team is here to stay. And they're going to be around and dominating for a long time.
Yep.
So, but to go 38-0, 39-0, whatever it is, undefeated for an entire season is just incredible. And it doesn't matter what sport you're playing.
Right.
But they were just dominating, in the first half the bench of South Carolina had actually scored more points than their starting 5. So that just tells you what they've got coming off the bench and how that team is being built.
Yep.
So my hat's off to those ladies because, man, and they can play defense too. Yeah, it was, right? And that's really the first time I've seen Cardoza play. Mm-hmm. She is a freaking beast. She's 6'7", right?
Yeah.
And when she's down in the paint, she just makes everybody in the paint look small. Now, Iowa is small.
Yes,
Their starting 5 was 1 forward and all guards. Right? That's their game. That's how they play. That's what they've been, right? So, and early on, they were doing a heck of a job against Cardoza, right? They really were.
Yeah.
But over time, that's a big body. To me, that's like watching the offensive line just pound the defensive line. Yeah. And then at the end of the game, that's when the big runs come. But, yeah, she's gonna be a force at the WNBA level. She really is.
Agreed.
Yeah, because she's not that skinny 6'7", right?
No,
she's
basically Shaquille O'Neal for the WNBA.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, and I was trying to figure out a really nice way to say that, but I'm like that's perfect. That's perfect. Is that she's just that kind of build. She makes everybody look tiny.
Yeah, and she does.
Just incredible. Just an incredible team that South Carolina has. Based on what we saw this year, we all know how tough it is to go back to back. South Carolina won in 2022. They made it to the Final Four in 23 and then won it again with a very young team. They're only losing Cardoza.
Right. And nobody thought that team would be as good as what they were either. Nobody.
Yeah. And not anybody. And they probably did. They probably felt they had a better team than anyone else thought they did, right? But you're going to do that.
They said that they played in France or somewhere overseas for their one of their first games, and they said that's when they realized that that we got a better team than what we actually thought. So it was after that first game.
So I'm just I'm gonna have to continue to watch because, like I said, that team is going to be absolutely dominant, and it wouldn't surprise me if next year they went undefeated and got a back-to-back championship. I
Well, it
mean,
was just, and really, the basketball is just like, look, for like her or hate her, because I know she's gonna be one of those people with, as far as Caitlin Clark goes, someone's gonna like
she
her,
will be.
someone's gonna hate her, just because that's how high profile players are, right? But
Yep.
But regardless of your stance on her, what she did for women's basketball,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't take that away from her. Like she's made it relevant.
Yeah.
And so going into the WNBA, and it's not just her. I mean, I think she was the main one that drew like a lot of attention to it. But once people started watching women's basketball, they started seeing these other like fabulous players of like, whoa, wait a minute, what have we been missing? Like, I think she drew attention to it, and the other players kind of like got kept the retention.
Yeah. So there were 5. They showed it in one of the pre-games. I don't know if it was against UConn or not, but because they were talking about was it Brockers? Is that how you pronounce her last name from UConn?
Oh no. Jeez. Paige Bucher?
Bucher. That's what it was. Bucher.
Yeah.
Right? So, but her and Clark played AAU.
Yeah.
Right? They were 2 of the top 5 girls coming out in that class. And they were showing all that class of that 2018 class, 2019 class. 2, 3, 4. I forget what class it is. Well, they've been there for 4 years. It'd be 2020.
Yeah, so 2020.
It'd be 2020. But that class, they're all coming out to the WNBA. These girls are going to change. They're going to put people in the seats.
Yeah.
Right? They are going to put people in the seats. And I think the WNBA has an opportunity here, right, to cash in on what is available, like to really make them relevant. And I hope that they do, because watching women's basketball, and I've said this before, it is truly basketball, right? Like they come down, they set up, they run a play, it's not just and they shoot, and pure shooting, right? It's wonderful to watch. It really is. And I mean, last night's game averaged 18.7 million viewers, right? So every time, like from the Elite 8, Final 4, National Championship, it has gone up from like 12 to 14 to 18 million viewers watching these ladies play. And that was the most viewers of any game, men's, women's, professional, college, in 5 years.
Wow.
Right? Like, relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Putting the game on the map. And it's just awesome to see. It was awesome to see. We talked about it because the game, they were from the opening announcement when they introduced Iowa, right? Because Skulky is the tallest girl on the starting 5.
No, she's not the tallest. Well, in the starting 5,
starting
yes,
5.
but not tallest.
Starting 5.
Yeah.
She's not the tallest on the team. But starting 5, she was the tallest that they announced, right? And I think she's what, 6'3",
6'2" or 6'3",
6'2", something. Yeah. She's in that range. Yeah. And their shortest was, Gabby Marshall at 5'9". And that girl, she's a tough.
She's tough, but she looks like a kid out there especially going up against South Carolina.
She did. And South Carolina, they did have one of their starting guards, what I think was 5'9", 5'10", right? So they were kind of right there, but you're going up to 6'7". It was just a height advantage, and South Carolina had 9 deep on their team.
That's
9.
Honestly,
deep.
That was the biggest difference. Well, I'm sorry, those two things are the biggest difference, right? The height that allowed him to kind of get the rebounds, uncontested and have all his second chance shots. And then having so many good players that the bench is basically just as good as their starters. Like that was, I mean, I don't know. They always stayed fresh. They got into foul trouble, didn't matter. They could substitute, and they didn't miss a beat.
No, they absolutely didn't. And, watching that game, you could just see it. Like the offensive rebounds was just, I mean.
Look, I think that was a mistake, though, getting Stolke out of the game. I understand they want a little more size in there to go against Cardosa, but ultimately,
I think they needed to leave. They should have brought one of the other guards out, and leave your height in there because that's what you needed. That
yeah, like that. What was her name? Arroyo or whatever.
AFF a Fulter.
A Fulter.
Is that what you're talking?
Yeah.
A Fulter.
Yeah, Fulter. Yeah, I that was who I would have targeted. Right, take her out of there. If you want 44 in there for the height. Stolke. Yeah. Look, that girl is tough. I really, as much as I like watching Caitlin Clark, I like watching Stolke. She was way over, I don't want to say outmatched, but she was the size was just such a huge difference. But man, she played tough though. Against Cardosa.
Did.
She played.
She
so
did not.
hard.
She tried not to. She gave up very little.
Yeah.
Right. She really did, and you got to hand it to her. She was tired, right? But we talked about the height, right? South Carolina had 51 total rebounds.
Jeez, that's insane, man.
All right, over to 29 for Iowa.
Yeah.
18 of those were offensive rebounds. That means they had at least 18 extra opportunities to take a shot with a new shot clock, right?
Right. And between her and our Cardosa and Kit, right? Kit.
Yep.
Being like 6'2" or 6'3".
Yeah.
Kits.
Yep.
Jeez, man. That was just, and Kits just seemed like she came out of nowhere. The rebound was coming down.
Yeah.
Cardosa wasn't in position, and then she just came out of nowhere, snagged the rebound, and put it back up again.
I'm telling you, she's 6'2", and I would bet her wingspan has got to be close to 6'6". If you go fingertip to fingertip, she's got to be close. And she's only 19 years old.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So, talk about a young South Carolina team. We mentioned that, but I'm telling you, so she had 17 minutes. She had 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 11 points. Kits did, right?
Oh, wow. Byron Buxton. I'm sorry. Byron Buxton just robbed Will Smith as a hit. He laid out flat, went Superman, and caught that ball in right center. That was a gem. Holy crap.
That's going to make the highlights.
Wow. Anyways, sorry, but that was...
No, that's okay. Dude. But, so, talk about the game, right? So, Iowa comes out, and they are just lighting it up. And it's not even Caitlin Clark to start, right?
No.
Because the first 7 points were somebody else.
Multiple people, actually.
Yes.
Multiple
so, Kate Martin, I think, had 5 of the first points. And then, all of a sudden, Caitlin Clark just went off. She scored 18 points in the first period.
Yeah.
Right?
They said that was the most ever in a period, in that championship game?
Absolutely, it was. Yep.
Yeah.
18 points. Of the 27 points that they scored in the first period were scored by Clark, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think she took a shot until, to 10 minutes, less than 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So she was just lighting it up. You could tell she was feeling it when she came down the court. Right? They were up 10 or 12-0, 11-0 on the Gamecocks early. And then South Carolina settled down. They came back. They were up 29-19. And the end of the second period, I felt like we had some bad ball, or I say we. Iowa had some bad ball control. And I say we because I was hoping that Iowa would win, right?
Yeah,
it was going to be their first championship. They're a team that, when you collectively look at this team, right? You're like, this is not the team, right? But somehow they are there again for the second year in a row, right?
Well, just kind of going back to talking about like the second period and stuff like that. Like they made a change and they ended up putting Raven Johnson on Caitlin Clark, and she was awesome on defense. Yeah, she was awesome on defense. I loved watching. Like, look, the way she pick her pocket. She was harassing her all the time. She always had a hand in her face, trying to reduce her vision. Like the way she played defense on Caitlin Clark, that was textbook. That's what you had to do. Yeah. I mean, Caitlin Clark, don't get me wrong. Like she still scored on Raven. She finished the entire game with 30 points, but I mean, Raven slowed her down, right? I mean, she had 18 points in the first quarter and only 12 in the rest of the
for the rest of the game. Exactly.
I mean, she slowed her down.
They basically were. Her defense was frustrating Clark, and it made her take bad shots.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So she was rushing it. She was trying to go up just to to get a shot off. You and I were talking during the game, with with Donnie, with our cousin, and we were like, okay, can they make the comeback? Can Iowa make the comeback? And I thought if they were going to do that, it was going to have to be somebody other than Clark to do it because they're guarding her, right? Like they did not, they harassed her all the way down the court.
They did.
And Clark had to run a mile just to get the ball back. Right.
The only thing though was not that I think you're wrong with what you're saying as far as the it would have to have been some other than Clark, but there was no other one person than Clark that could do it on Iowa. No. Like Iowa's just not that deep, right? I know Stokey had a 50-point game, but most of Stokey's points are going to come from underneath the basket, and trying to score against Cardosa just not going to really be possible. Score 50. I'm saying, right?
Correct.
And so, even though I like Stokey, I really do, that was just not going to be a matchup that she was able to dominate on and score that many points. So she wasn't going to be able to do it. And I'm sorry, but there's nobody else on Iowa that can put up that many points in order to help them come back. So even though Clark was the one being covered, if there was anybody on Iowa that could help pull Iowa and get Iowa back in front again, it was going to be Clark. But Raven did too good of a job.
I felt like Gabby Marshall missed on a couple of opportunities trying to get an extra pass in. I felt like she was open at the line, and she very hesitant, right? Because she's got a beautiful shot, right? Like the 2 threes she made. I mean, they were, she's got a great shot, and I'm like, take that shot, she'd get it, take the shot, right? But she was always looking for that next pass.
She was,
and that was the offense that they were looking at. Kate Martin didn't have a bad game. She was just, inefficient. I think Clark missed a bunch of shots, right? Some stuff that were a little closer in the paint.
Yeah, Clark was a little desperate, it seemed like, right? Where she was, where she kind of forced stuff. I think Clark kind of felt how I did, that if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be her. And
it's going to have to be her.
And that was just some really ill-advised shots that she was doing.
So. It was. But just an exciting game. Even late into the fourth quarter, the fourth period where, it looked like Iowa was trying to make a comeback, right? And it just too little too late, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the score, South Carolina scored 19 and 19 in the third and fourth period, right? Iowa scored 13 and 16. But the number of assists, the number of dimes that Clark threw that did not get converted on, right? Like, these are the opportunities, right? And because she did, there was that one pass she was coming up full steam, and she led, I think it was Stolke, down into the paint. Reminded me of an old Magic Johnson pass where you kind of threw that half court bounce pass and hit the guy on the fly, and Stolke couldn't handle it. But it was perfect placement between two defenders out in front of Stolke. All she had to do was grab it and go up. Right.
And that's what I'm excited about for her at the next level.
Yep.
Because again, as much like Stolke, she's been playing with other professionals, Caitlin Clark will be.
Yes.
Right. And those dime passes that she's doing, they're going to be converted at the next level.
Her assist, I can only imagine they're going to exponentially grow.
She could have 15 assists a game average. She really could.
Exactly. I mean, she already led the league, the NCAA this year in assists. She led them in scoring, right? Which had never been done. And to be both. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that she does score, because she can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, on the backside of that, the defense for South Carolina was just incredible. I mean, and it's hard to point to one person, right? It really is, because that entire team played so well, right? They had 9 players score points.
I know there's one player that didn't play at all for them, but other than that, I know they all did.
Yeah. But 9 players scored points.
Wow.
And, I mean, Raven Johnson had 3. But her defense in that 37 minutes that she played, because she had the most minutes out there, because she was on the court for as long as Clark was on the court.
Right.
Right? And, but she got 3 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yeah.
But it was the defense that made the difference.
Mm-hmm. And here's where I think the problem was with, again, going back to Iowa, Stolke only had 27 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You had Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, and Kate Martin all at 40. Folter had 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Stolke only 27.
Yeah.
But she had the least amount of minutes, but she ended up with 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the person that was typically the beneficiary of the assist from Clark, Stolke.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
And I know there's a lot of talk about Kate Martin, but I don't know. Like if there was 2 people I would look to try to replace, it was going to be Kate Martin and a Folter. Like Martin, I know the game against UConn. She was had some really awesome plays that helped seal the game away. Those turnaround jumpers and stuff like that. I know, but I know she finished this game with 16 points. But there's a lot of stuff, I'm not a fan of Kate Martin's game, I guess, is the bottom line. I'm just not. And I think a lot of it is like, I just don't think that she looks to dish a lot, for like when she decides to drive, that's what she's going to do. Or when she just, I don't know. I just don't think that when she gets the ball in her hands, she wants to score. That's it.
Well, I don't think she's the point guard. She's the shooting guard that they have a bunch of, right? But
yeah,
her free throw, her baseline, like that, those shots that she was making in other games, she was just not making, right? I think she had to alter her shot because of 6'7", just standing 6'7", not even with your hands up 6'7", right? So I just think having to change the way she was shooting, it affected her game, at least in this game. But, when you get to that level and you've had that many starts, you have to be able to produce. So it's not that I don't understand and don't agree. I just, Yeah, it just was one of those things. Yeah, you got to make those. You got to make those shots when you're not really contested. And she missed a bunch hitting the front of the rim, right in front, inside the free throw line, right. And those are shots that she usually makes.
Well, look, I'm just looking at like the last 6 games, right? Going back just for the postseason, the 6 games that she played. The best she shot was at 50% for field goals percentage. She never shot over 50. Like her 3-point percentage, it was 25% against SC, 25% against Connecticut, 20% against LSU. 0% against West Virginia. Like, I guess that's where I'm coming from, right? It just seems like she takes a lot of shots and low conversion rate. That's all.
No, numbers don't lie, right? But like I said, some of the games that I saw, she can get hot, and then it's cold, so she's very up and down.
Yeah, I mean, I know she'll get her 15, 16 points. That's generally where she is, but yeah. I mean, and I guess that's part of what I was going for without even thinking about it, is when you look at Kate Martin, and, she is a starter on Iowa, obviously, right? But when you compare her to the people on South Carolina, like, even the people on the bench seems like they'd be a little bit better than her. It just seems like there was like the talent level is completely one-sided in that game.
It was, and it showed. It did. And, I mean, you could just sit here and look at stats and the stats of this game, but go back and look at South Carolina's games, game after game, right? So, like, against South Carolina, against North Carolina State, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They had 8 girls with points, right? And we're talking about 17. I mean, 17, 13, 30. They had 30 points off the bench.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just huge, right?
I mean, Tessa had 19 of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you go back. I mean, you can go back. You can just keep going back in the games. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They had 9 girls with points. Again, right? Like, that is hard to beat, right? Yeah. When you're that deep on your bench and, like, you can just pull anybody, right? They never have the same girl as the leading scorer. And like back to back, like, it's because they just give it to the hot hand. And then you start looking at minutes, right? The most any one of them played against Oregon State was 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So now they're rested.
Yeah.
Right? Let's look here. NC State. Nobody played more than 29 minutes. I mean, that's hard to beat. You can't. That's hard to get around, right?
And if you look at, again, going back to the championship game there between Iowa and SC, and you're talking about minutes played, and you're talking about benches, like Iowa, their bench scored 0 points.
0.
And yeah.
Tessa Johnson was coming off the bench, scored 19, and led the team.
Yeah. And I think the bench there had over 30 points in the championship game.
Yeah, so that's 19, that's 25, 28, 34, 35 points.
Jeez.
Yeah. So over a third of the points came off the bench.
Yep.
Whereas, roughly a little over a third of the points came from Clark for Iowa. Right? Like, that's 1 against 5.
Exactly.
That's it, production like that. That's why I think I know the season just ended, but
yeah,
South Carolina they made a statement.
I'm looking forward to next year already.
They are here to stay. And I do want to give a little bit of shout out to their coach because she was there about what she said about Caitlin Clark and the kind of play and what she did for basketball, right?
Uh-huh.
And she didn't say she was the GOAT, but she did call her one of the GOATs, right, in the game. And for her to recognize that, right, even in the heat, like taking a moment to congratulate a player, a team, I just, to me, that was classy.
It was classy. And and again, she kind of said what we were saying earlier about how she affected the game
Yes.
of women's basketball and stuff like that. And that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And she even talked about, the next level, like what's going to happen there, how she's going to continue in the next level. And,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and you could tell that that's the kind of coach that, that young players will want to play for.
Oh,
she seems like a great coach. And even during some of the interviews that they did during the game, when she was talking about like, like kind of like have to let these young players, like be themselves, let them play themselves, but play the way they want to, like coach them a little bit differently. Like she seems to understand that you just can't have just one style of coaching and make everybody conform to that. Like it's just a lot easier for you to like, let them be who they want to be, but let them kind of try to fit their play style in with what you want to achieve.
Right.
Get out. Ohtani home run.
So, speaking of trying to make your players fit your system, fit the way you coach, let's talk about Kentucky just for a quick second.
Go ahead.
Did you hear?
I did.
So, just a couple of days ago, they were saying that, how he's going to be back next year. And nope. He's like, you know what? I'm out of here.
Going to Arkansas.
Right? To coach down there. So, it was just funny because that was one of the things that they were talking about in the article I was reading, was how he was slow to conform to, the one and dones. He was slow to conform to NIL. He was slow to conform to like always behind, right? And because he was still trying to coach like it was the 80s.
Yeah.
Like it was the 90s, right? And that's not how bad, you can't be that coach anymore. So, like, Coach K, for Duke before he retired, like, I don't know how he continued to do it, right? Like, he's that guy that just conformed, played with what he had, put a team out on the court every year after year, right? And there are coaches that do that, right? And but yeah,
Calipari's gone.
Calipari is down in Arkansas, and now they're going to be looking for a coach in Kentucky. And for anybody interested in that position out at Kentucky, be ready to work, because Kentucky is like it's an elite basketball. That's what it is, right? When you think about basketball, Kentucky is always near the top.
Yep.
And it's going to be a grueling position. It's going to be nonstop. So if you're ready for it, go get it. But just know that they're going to be expecting wins. They're going to be expecting tournament wins and championships. So, but yeah, I had to throw that in there because it kind of tied to what you were talking about with Coach Staley. So I wanted to, I'm like, it was just ironic. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy was coaching old school. And he's like, I'm out of here. He just walked on them. It was like when the Browns left Cleveland.
Yeah.
Left in the middle of the night.
See ya.
Yep. But yeah, just wanted to talk about that game. Last night's game was great. I loved watching it. I was on the end of my seat, kind of just, I'm trying to grade papers and do some work for school. and I keep looking up and my hands are going, yes, yes. But it was it was a good battle. And I liked that it was a physical game, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
even at the end of the game, there were still fouls to give, so it was physical without going too far, or at least according to the refs. I'm sure
the refs let them play too, right?
Yeah, the refs let them play, and because I'm sure they're going to be fans out there like, oh, they should have called this, they should have, and I'm sure, right? Now I saw Coach Staley's face on a number of calls against her team, right? And I felt like some of them were a little, the traveling call against Cardoza.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna put that out there. It wasn't a travel, and I'm sure at full speed it might have looked like her foot slipped. And I get it. We get the benefit of slow motion replay, right? So I just want everyone. You have to remember that, right? If you're out on the court and there are things that you see, it's like any sport, right? They got to call it the way they think they saw it. So, but yeah, just wanted to wrap that game up, talk about it. It was exciting. You could see the competitor in Clark at the end. She was the first one in line, congratulating that team. Walked out the court. You could see she wanted it, like she was emotional, but she kept it in. So I think that's just part of her character,
right?
But I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like next year when when these girls leave and they're coming out to the WNBA. I wish Michigan had a WNBA team again, right? Where's our Detroit Sparks? Or not Sparks? Whatever, was it the Sparks? Detroit?
No.
Something. No. It was something car related. I thought kind of similar to the Pistons.
I got it.
But anyway,
Shock.
The Shock. There you go. So, Piston and Shock makes sense. Okay, but anyway, just to be able to see a game. But if Clark's gonna be in Indiana, we'll have to find some games close. Take a little road trip.
Yeah. I would definitely be game for that.
Yeah. So, because Chicago have a team?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, there's one in Indiana.
Yeah.
Cleveland?
No.
No?
No. They got Atlanta, New York, Washington, Connecticut, L.A., Phoenix, Minnesota, Chicago, Dallas, Sacramento, Seattle.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think would be.
We could stick to Indiana and Chicago. I don't mind going those places. Because if I'm going to go out to Washington State, I want to go out and visit. Not just to see a game. So, but that's really all I have. I feel like I hog the mic on my brother a little bit, but I get excited about this game.
Right.
Most people don't get as excited about women's basketball like I do, and I don't know what it is about women's basketball that I like, but I do.
I mean, it was fun to watch, and I think again, as we said kind of earlier, that people have started to realize just um, how much fun it really is,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, like, look, you have just think about some of these ladies coming into the game, right? I mean, of course, Caitlin Clark, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Cameron Brink, right? She was 6'4" out of Stanford. You know,
Yep.
she was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Who
Rakia
still has a chance to
Jackson,
go number one.
Tennessee.
There's been talk that she might even go number one, or that she has the
Yeah,
potential
there's
to
no
go
way.
number one.
There's no way. Because the
I,
amount of revenue Caitlin Clark brings into that team
I,
that she goes to, that alone is going
I
to
know.
lock her for number one. I'm not saying that, like that Caitlin Clark is that much better than Brink. I'm just making the point, right? That because the amount of money Clark will bring in to the team, just in jersey sales alone,
Oh,
she's
absolutely.
automatically going to be number one. Um, but of course, Cardoso, we talked about her. Angel Reese, can't really forget about her.
Nope.
Charisma Osborne, like I'm really interested. Like this is going to be great. Like
and then some of this young
influx
talent.
of talent.
Yeah, and then the young talent that the women's side NCAA has. Who's the girl from USC, the Trojans?
Jeez.
She's a freshman.
She's a freshman, and she
Yeah,
was already breaking records.
yeah. And obviously the girls they have on South Carolina's team, they played really well. So there's a lot of young talent.
Juju Watkins.
Juju, yes.
Yeah. As a freshman, man, she's killing it, man.
Yeah. So it's lots of things are going to happen, I think, in the WNBA level here coming up real soon in the next 4 or 5 years.
I mean, honestly, it's here to stay, right? Like,
yeah.
I think because you saw women's basketball kind of get more of a following starting last season,
mm-hmm.
And with what Caitlin Clark was doing, and then the so-called beef between her and Angel Reese, and then the championship game, the whole like I'm invisible, you can't see me, and Angel Reese, like all that stuff. Like people followed that, people love that, and then going into this year, right? Like, I mean, look, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the announcers or someone, an article I read, like the social media following that these athletes have, like the next level needs to work with that and capitalize on that following, right? How do you continue to maintain that following and grow that into ticket sales, right?
Right.
So the WNBA, the NBA, I think athletes or athletics in general needs to start thinking about that and figuring out how to capitalize, because it's and how to make that into revenue. So,
no, agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for the WNBA, right? You just, I think you said that NBA actually funds most of it, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So, we gotta help these these ladies out because they deserve more money than they're getting.
Well, I think now, right, where like Caitlin Clark has a chance to change that, and I know it's
mm-hmm.
not fair putting all of it on her, but with her coming in, and again, look, when you're starting to have the Caitlin Clark effect in college, where tickets would be like $500 a piece, and it's only in the games that Caitlin Clark's playing in, and then she's the presumed number one overall draft pick for Indiana, and Indiana's games are already being sold out, and those ticket prices are already being raised and stuff like that. For those games, even in arenas where she's not at home, whether it's like Chicago or other places, like those tickets are being sold out and being sold for more money. Like, unfortunately, like she is just that good and that high profile that she has that chance in order to make those changes. So, and I don't want to put it all on her because, again, there's a huge influx of young talent coming into the WNBA, not just this year, but the following years too. Because Paige Bucher, she's going back to college, so she'll be entering the WNBA the very next year. And not just her. Again, it's just now it looks like every single year you're starting to get that huge influx of talent. So it's not just going to be Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark is going to be like the lighter that kind of ignites that. So now they have the chance to actually, because Caitlin Clark's, I think I read, is only going to make $70,000 a year just from her pay, her contract, right?
Correct.
And she's worth so much more than the $70,000 a year. But the ultimately, like, that's who is going to start the change.
Yeah. I mean, think about, we have the Summer Olympics this year.
Yes.
She is on the national team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, she's going to be going overseas, playing for Team USA, working, playing with some of these WNBA players and growing that WNBA brand even overseas.
That's correct.
Right? And more people are going to watch Team USA play basketball because of the people that are on that team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's going to be, it's bigger than her. It's bigger than, just capitalize on it, WNBA.
Right.
Right?
They have to at this point.
And I'm usually one not to sit there and talk about capitalism. Right? Because I was infuriated that the Lions tickets for the playoffs were triple anywhere else, and we hadn't been there in 30 years. Right? You should be wanting to sell those tickets to all these true fans who have been there, right? But the NBA or WNBA needs an influx. And they have the talent coming to the WNBA now to start capitalizing on that. And I think it's time for
you got to
market
it. You have to market it.
Right? How many commercials do you see for WNBA? Right? What kind of advertisement do they have for the WNBA teams and their schedules? Right? So it's how I felt about the XFL, the USFL. They didn't really get it out there. Right? If you want it to work, you gotta advertise it. So you gotta spend some money to make some money.
Speaking of the UFL, XFL, did you see that kicker from Michigan?
No. The one that kicked the 60-something the other day, last week?
He made 2 60-plus yard field goals.
This weekend?
Jake Bates. Yeah. Yes.
The guy who hasn't kicked a field goal since high school's only got 3 60-yarders in 2 games?
He booted a 62-yard field goal on Sunday and a 64-yard field goal against the Battlehawks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also kicked a 62-yard field goal last season.
Yeah. Come on. So everyone's already talking about this kid about, hey, the Lions need to go and get him out and give him a tryout.
But if you've seen that 64-yard field goal, he cleared it by 4 or 5 yards. It wasn't barely made.
Yeah. And the thing is with that one, the first one that he kicked, the one that everyone got his name out there, he kicked that twice.
Yeah, that's right, because of the timeout.
Because they called the timeout, and he crushed the first one, and then he came back and he crushed that second one. So, yeah. Yep. He is definitely, I would assume, someone's going to call him to camp.
They got to.
Right? If he continues to kick bombs for the rest of the season, right, he is going to get an invitation to camp. Somebody's, whether it's the Lions or not, but somebody's going to invite this kid to camp.
I hope it's the Lions.
We need somebody with a leg, right?
Yeah.
But I also want someone who's accurate, right? I don't want them missing extra points.
Right.
Which we struggled with last year. So, but yeah. So I know we're hitting 50 minutes. I appreciate everyone listening. Listen to me babble on, because I shift. You can see at the end here, we'll shift gears in a heartbeat. But
Ohtani has 1 home run and 2 doubles this game. He's killing it.
He is killing it.
He's 3 for
4.
Home
run and 2 doubles.
And 2 doubles.
He's starting to get his swing.
Yeah.
Because he was a little flat at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it took him a little while to get going.
Yep. Yeah. But, which is weird because it seemed like during the spring training, he was hitting pretty good.
Yeah, but you don't really know if, of course, in spring training, you're going against like AAA, AA.
That's true too.
Players.
That's true too.
And also, and I don't know how much all that noise affected him with his interpreter, all that kind of stuff, that kind of like opened the season.
Right.
Like, mentally what that did to him. But,
yeah.
But yeah, so we do appreciate you staying for this long. And look, we want to, we got so much more to talk about. We really need to start doing more shows, but we got a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff to do.
We do.
Because we haven't even touched on XFL or USFL really. And we,
we're already 2 weeks in.
Right. And then the Olympics are coming up, and I love the Olympics.
I love the Olympics. And the Summer Olympics, I love this. I'm a huge track and field guy. I love the Summer Olympics.
Yep.
Right? Gymnastics. Right? Yep. Gymnastics. Got basketball.
Swimming.
Got track. Swimming. I mean.
Ledecky is the goat of all goats.
Oh, my God. Yes.
I mean, she's more, like, when you're talking about someone that dominates their sport, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone that dominates their sport, like, no one dominates their sport like Ledecky dominates her sport. Nobody. Yeah. She is the goat of goats.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, just, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then there's always beach volleyball. And
Yeah.
Look, so Gabby Reese, back, I had still have a huge crush on her.
Of course.
Right? But like, as far as like women athletes, like she was, well, yeah, that was my girl. She replaced Kathy Ireland really, really quick.
Yeah. Who is her partner though?
I don't know. I was a little fixated.
Dang it. Anyway, I said partner in the search and it's showing to meet her husband. I don't care about her husband. I'll do teammate. This wasn't it. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
Must
be someone else.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't recognize those.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Okay, anyways, yes, I don't really miss a match if I can help it. But we got a lot to cover. Subscribe. Love to have you back. Listen.
Yep.
We try to cover everything we can because, we just love sports in general, right? Like,
we do.
Just love sports. So come back, talk to us, see us, listen to us, interact with us. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to everybody later.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.